Do you have 15 minutes for a recipe that's low calorie but doesn't taste like it? Well, on our recipe of the week, I think I have just the thing on the next Fit and Fire. Welcome to another edition of Fit and Fire, your channel for guns and gear and the fitness and nutrition to run both. My name is Mark and I'm really pleased you guys stopped by. So this week we have the recipe of the week, which is going to be smoked salmon, fried duck eggs, kale, and chards. Now it seems like an odd combination, but when you put it all together, it really works and it tastes great. So without further ado, here's your recipe. So the ingredients are very minimal and the cook time is not very long either. It should be about 15 minutes. It really depends on how quickly you can saute up the greens, fry your duck egg. Now we're using smoked salmon. You can also use smoked trout on this. And the thing about using both of those is you usually can find those prepackaged in your deli or your seafood section of your local grocery store. Now I'm not a big fan of prepackaged stuff, but for ease of use, you can't beat it. And for a quick recipe, if you need to get things done in the evening, you can't beat it. So let's move on to the actual cooking of this recipe. So first and foremost, you're going to want to start with the greens. It's going to be the most prep time that you have of everything. First and foremost, you obviously want to have a clean cutting board and take your leaves of chards and of your kale, and depending on how many that you're going to be serving, you're going to want to use 4 to 5 per individual. Take those shards and cut off the stems. And then what I like to do once I have all of the stems cut off is I basically just fold those shards over once or twice and then I cut through each of it. You're going to want to make sure that you have a very sizable leaf when you put it into your pan to saute them, because they will shrink quite a bit. And what you think is a lot of food will shrivel up into not very much once it's cooked. So once you're done with your shards, what you're going to want to do is you can take your kale and do basically the same thing. Cut your stems off, fold them over, and dice up the kale as well. After you have both of those cut up, just set those to the side for just a second. Grab 2 cloves of garlic. And you can do one of 2 things. Now what we did was we went ahead and crushed each one of the cloves so we can throw that in with the chards and the kale. But you can also dice it. That was something that I thought about after we had the meal. I was like, you know, maybe if we diced it, it might have tasted a little bit better. Either way, it's your show. Do as you like. Once you have your greens all cut up and your garlic either diced or crushed, depending on how you'd like it, just go ahead and take all of that and move it over to your stove. Go ahead and turn your stove on to a medium to medium-low heat and put about a tablespoon or thereabouts into the pan and let that melt. Once the butter is melted, go ahead and move your greens into the pan to begin the saute process. Once you get the greens into the pan, go ahead and add salt and pepper to your taste. We like a lot of salt with our greens, especially with the kale and the chard greens. So don't be afraid to put a lot of salt in it. So as you're sauteing your greens, you'll notice that they're going to shrivel up, and it ends up being a judgment call of when you think they are done. Once you got to the point where you believe they're done, just go ahead and move them off the fire. Remember, the longer you saute them, the softer they're going to get. Now let's move on to the eggs. All you'll need to do is grab a pan, put it on the same burner if you like, but if you're talented, you can multitask and saute the greens and do the eggs at the same time. Unfortunately, I'm not that skilled quite as of yet, but that is another alternative. Talking about the eggs now, go ahead and spray some olive oil into your pan so that your eggs won't stick. And then go ahead and crack the egg, put it in, fry it like a normal egg. Now, we use duck eggs, and the reason why we use duck eggs is because the yolk is just so much more richer than a chicken egg. And I tell you, if you switch over to duck eggs, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know if there's any really nutritional value or benefits from eating duck eggs, chicken eggs, but it's just the taste. It's just so much more rich. So I really encourage you to go down to your local farmer's market, or if you need to, travel a little bit and find a farmer's market that does have duck eggs. Check them out and see if you like them. So let's talk about the star of our plate. Today it's smoked salmon, but like I said before, you could also pair it with a smoked rainbow trout. Both of these pair very well with this plate. Now, this particular recipe is focused completely on having a meal ready in 15 minutes or less. And with that being said, we went ahead and decided to use the prepackaged smoked salmon, or in a previous attempt we used the smoked rainbow trout. We did that for time's sake. We don't like to use prepackaged meat as much as possible, but in these two situations, that's why we did it. If you have access to fresh smoked fish, whether it be salmon or rainbow trout, by all means, go after it. So here's a picture of the packaged meat that we used. Simply, all you need to do is cut it out, place it on the plate, and here is your final dish. And that's our recipe of the week. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and if there's a recipe that you'd like for us to try, go ahead and leave that down in the comment section below. We'll do a video on it. I really appreciate everybody stopping by. If this is your first time, I'd like for you to consider subscribing. If you want to get notifications that I've dropped some new videos, go ahead and hit that bell button. And of course, if you like everything I'm doing, please don't be afraid to give me a thumbs up. And with that, keep on dropping those bells and shells. Comes a high five for you. Ready? Here you go.